What? It is day 5 of the RADiculously challenge. What? We are going to sort through the mail pile. Are you with me? Who's in it to win it? Maybe there's a... what was it used to get in the mail? The random, the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. How many of y'all really fell for that? Did anybody win? Because I don't remember ever hearing of anybody winning. Just saying. So pull up your water, get cozy and comfy. I didn't actually have a huge pile. I don't typically have a pile. My dad brings me some mail that sometimes still goes to the house up where he lives, and I don't get a lot of mail at the house right now, which is a good thing, right? Hi Diana, hi Kelly, hi William, how are you? I know, Diana, you've got to be getting excited. 2 weeks and we will be immersed in Kundalini Yoga teacher training. What? So excited. So here we have just a small pile of some items that I happen to have. I haven't had a chance to go through and deal with them. Like, for example, I don't know if y'all do this. So when I get mail, I don't have mail piles. It's very simple for me. It's very easy for me. Okay, look, someone's trying to get me to apply for another credit card. I think that's recyclable. And when I was living with my dad, or when I would be up at my dad's, he's got a shredder, so I would shred anything with all of my information. I think that's kind of important, don't you? Like, you don't want people taking your information. It's too easy in this day and age. And I don't know of another Lana Ann Labonte. So I did see there is one Lana Labonte, and apparently she only got married this summer or last summer. And so her maiden name is not Labonte. So I thought that was interesting. You have a ton of mail piles. Well, I have some piles, but they're not mail piles as much as I've got to sit down and go through that, and like, for example, some of this is stuff I need to go through. So one of the things that I pulled out, so for those of you followed, my mother, we donated her organs, okay? And it was really beautiful. We found out, number one, that a woman received both of her kidneys, and her eyes were donated, the tissues, some of her tissue, and I was told, I think it said, maybe it's in this one, in one of the correspondence letters that I received, there are 2 different organizations that work with the organs and the eyes, apparently, so that's kind of cool when you think about it. Hi Cindy, how are you, beautiful? Hi Francis. So, and I really love this. Over here behind me, you see this teddy bear hanging on top of my salt lamp. That has my mom's heartbeat. Each of us got a teddy bear. And so this is, they do Build-A-Bear, and they put their symbol. This is the symbol from the organization that donate, the organ donation. Isn't that beautiful? I love green, first off. Kelly green of all greens, right? And when I push here, it's my mom's heartbeat, because they recorded it and they put it in the bear. So that's very sweet. In the other room, I have, they sent us a frame, a picture frame. It's a really pretty silver frame. I'm not going to go run and get that. Maybe I'll show that another time. But basically what I received was, as I cover up a couple things, this letter. And this letter basically is a forwarding of correspondence from Maryland. She said, it says, We are happy to forward you correspondence from Maryland, Shirley's right and left kidney recipient. If you have no objection, we will continue to forward any correspondence we receive from the recipients. At this time, all identities, with the exception of first names, will remain confidential. Please feel free to write back to Maryland. I'm sure they would love to hear from you. As always, please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. And I do need to I have to get in contact with Paula, this beautiful woman up in Nebraska that it was like, you know, like an extended part of our family. She was just seriously an angel, showing up and supporting all of us while we were going through this with Mom. And so this really pretty card apparently was sent, and they photocopied it, and I believe my sisters and my brother also may have received them. What you did was amazing, beyond generous and kind. You gave me a miracle. You gave me the gift of life. And so this is what the photocopy of the card looks like. And then on the other side, which is the photocopy of the other side, how can I ever thank you enough? It is families like you that make this world a better place. Thank you so much. And so that is what that looks like. Very pretty, very sweet. And we were also sent guidelines to, you know, to write to the recipients, and I have not done this yet. Maybe that's what I should do. Hadn't thought about it. So, where's my paper and pen? Oh, this is what I do. This is me in my bed, right? So I'm kind of comfy. There's a pen. I know what I'll do. How do you all function in your homes? Are you silly like me? I'm all over the place. But this is the love cloud, and it's just cozy, it's comfy, and there's a reason why there's a bunch of pillows, right? I like to have different ways to get comfortable. So, let me see here. Oh, this is heavy. Oy. All right, I got a lot of books going on next to the bed right now. Oh, that's right. There's some more stuff over here that I had totally forgotten about. Aside from bank statements, I also received my tax, proposed tax assessment for what I'll owe on the house this year. That's always exciting. Don't you look forward to those? What does it say? Death and taxes are certain. Or that if whenever you own something, there's probably a bill to own, which is kind of silly. All right, I have. This is just a folder I was sorting through. Oh, I know I needed to put that with over there. So that worked out. This is kind of how this happens. Even if it's not a mail pile, just taking a pile of paperwork, sorting through it, and organizing it in the way that maybe you no longer need it, or something in the pile. Even if you eliminate a couple pieces of paper, scrap papers. Often what I'll do, I don't know if y'all do this, and I got this from my mom. So, hey, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You get an envelope. You know you're going to need this, even if you're not. You start putting the list of things to do, the list of things you need, right? Got to go to the grocery store. And while we're here, that's a good idea. You're going to laugh at me. So I have to get on Amazon anyway. So I need to order some raw cacao, some saddle soap to clean the leather couch, lucuma. Let's see, what else did I need? There's a few different things I needed to order. I am so due for a hair appointment. I think I'm going to call my girlfriend and schedule an appointment to have keratin done to my hair. My hair's gotten so long, y'all, that every time I go to brush my hair, I swear I'm losing it. It's getting lots of lint in it, and it's getting irritating to me because the last thing I want is to be ripping my hair out. And just washing it can be a chore, and you just lose a lot of hair. I don't know. I've been tempted to kind of cut it down, but it is long. It's the longest it's ever been. It is past my butt. I am prone to possibly sitting on it, You have a crap load of saddle soap. Oh my God, Heather, that would be so helpful. You know what's really sad is I know I have one of the best leather cleaners for my couch when I was living in Italy. It does such a fantastic job. It was one of the best that I ever found. I don't even know what it was. It was so long ago. If I really think about it, I might have it because I have, this is how organized I am. I have a little container. It's kind of a wicker, but it looks like a little purse. It's got a handle and it's about this big. And in it, I had everything for my, my polishing, my boots, my leather boots and everything. I've always taken really good care of my stuff. So seasonally, what I would do is I would go through and I would weatherproof them. I would shine them and put the wax in them to maintain and prolong the life of the boots. Kind of like we did when I was in the Air Force, where you would take the polish and you would seal it in. You really rub it in so that it kept it waterproof and it protected the leather. So I have a whole container of that in the laundry room. What I'll probably end up having to do is see if maybe possibly I may have that in there. That's a good idea. See, this is the good thing, is you can sit down and make your little notes. So this is how I take my notes, right? Y'all do this too? Too silly. Hi, Maria and Tony. How are y'all doing tonight? You got your pile? Are you going through your stuff, organizing and sorting? So yeah, then there were some bank statements. Those just need, what I do with my bank statements is I'll put them in monthly order and keep them. What I do like to do is go through and sort and just make sure there's no extraneous fees or maybe there's an extra charge here or there. It doesn't happen very often, but I have from occasion, like noticed, oh, well, that's weird. What was that from? And if you don't look and you don't check and you don't call, you just sometimes end up paying fees you don't even know. I've been with my credit union since my dad was still working up in New York, and I was in high school. So I got my first checkings, and I think I was 12 or 13 to get my first checking account. My mom wanted to make sure we understood and knew how to maintain, so she taught us how to balance, and that was up in Holton, Maine, right, Heather? Holton Federal Credit Union? I don't know. It was right on the corner, right on the same side as the movie theater, on that corner right there. Heather, let me know if you remember the name of that bank, or was it a credit union? I don't recall. So at least I got a little bit of a list of, I'm probably going to get off this live and get on Amazon and do my quick order. I know there's something else I need. I've got the cacao. I haven't made chocolates in a while. I need to make kombucha. But what I sat down, the reason I grabbed all this is because I have this booklet and what I can do. And look at that. There's even an envelope in here. So the envelope has a Forever Love stamp. And you know what? I know that came from my mom. You can't make this stuff up. I'm serious. So in this booklet, it's kind of cute. This was a Dream Big. I got this at Home Goods. Do y'all do that? Sometimes you're like, I like the front and the cover of that. So you end up buying it. And on the inside, it's got a perforation so that you're not going to end up with all the leaflet corners. But it's kind of cool. So I can write a nice little write-up about my mom, because the writing guidelines from the Nebraska Organ Recovery, they say, sharing your loved one's story. When your loved one became a donor, he or she also became a hero to those that received the gift of life. Your loved one lives on in the recipient and now shares a special connection with them. And I truly believe that, because that was the one thing I felt really like my mom's eyes are going to continue to serve someone to keep seeing. Her kidneys get to continue to live and to support. Kidneys are, it's what, yeah. Wow, okay, so you had the opportunity to share your loved one's legacy by writing to the recipient. The decision to write is a very personal choice, and Nebraska Organ Recipient Recovery encourages donor families and transplant recipients to write only if and when they feel ready. Please know that you do not need to wait until you hear from the recipient before you write, and that you may make the initial contact. You may also include letters from other members of your family with your letter. Anonymity. The intention of donor and recipient correspondence is to provide support to families experiencing the grief process and to allow recipients to express their gratitude to donor families. We are encouraged by the potential emotionally healing benefits of correspondence, but careful to protect the confidentiality of those who wish not to participate. Therefore, we initially limit correspondence to any anonymous format. So there, and I really appreciate and respect that. I don't have any issues with my identity being revealed personally, but I think it's sweet for those who do want to remain anonymous. Identities are kept confidential until both the donor's family and the recipient agree to release personal information about themselves and are willing to accept personal information about the other. Letter content. So it says you may choose to send a greeting card or a personal letter or photos. Whatever method you choose, please consider the following suggestions as a guide to help with your correspondence. Greeting the recipient. Address the letter, Dear Recipient. If you decide not to include your first name, simply close the letter with the donor's spouse, donor's daughter, etc. What to include? The age and gender of your loved one. My mom would have been 64, so she was still 63. Information about your loved one's family. My mom was a widow. She was a grandmother, obviously a mother. Your loved one's job or occupation. Do not mention his or her employer, hobbies, or interests. So we sat there when we were talking about this, and we were like, what was Mom's occupation? Like a librarian, but not quite, like a true researcher, seeker of the truth. My mother would tell you she was a seeker of the truth. And, I was reading through some of my old stuff, and when you drop the illusion of the mind, you no longer seek the truth outside of yourself. And I think it's really common for us to try to seek answers where they will never serve us when we have all the answers within us. And that's why I had a lot of compassion and understanding for my mom, because when we are avoiding confrontation or sitting with ourselves because we're fearful not only of the judgment of others, but our own judgment. We are our own worst critics. It's really easy for us to talk ourselves down or to give ourselves a hard time. So the harder we are on ourselves, the more we are resistant to anybody else giving us criticism, right? This has been my experience. When I was at the height of my really, really hypercritical self, I know that if somebody else were to tell me something I was already hypercritical about toward myself, or that I was hard on myself about to begin with, if somebody else would bring it up, it would be like a double dagger in my heart, in my stomach. And so to take criticism from other people was extremely difficult for me. Other than, there's constructive criticism, and then there can be the destructive, shaming, blaming type of criticism, right? Like somebody is deliberately trying to make you feel bad about yourself for something, versus we do that enough on our own, right? We don't need anybody else to do that. I think it's very important that we hold each other to have our own personal experiences and not try to fix one another. Sometimes we just need to be heard. Sometimes we just need to listen, but nobody needs to fix one another. That's, again, if you learn nothing in this life, we don't need control over everyone and everything. We don't have control over anything. And that the subtlest form of control is thinking we can fix or help someone, right? assuming we even know what somebody else needs. Most of us don't even know what we need. What makes us think we can know for somebody else? Because that's a distraction when we focus and fixate on someone else's needs and fixing them so that we don't have to confront and fix or work on ourselves. And I know from when I went through Beyond Addiction the first time, I was like, ooh, okay, I feel humbled. I felt extremely humbled because as I was very much always trying to help people in my life, especially my closest loved ones and my family, I realized it's time to step back. It's time to take off the reins. I get it. When you truly love someone, you're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to, get them to do what you think they should do. You really hold them where they're at and allow them and empower them to make their choices, to have their experiences. Because we don't want anybody telling us what to do. What makes anybody think it's okay for us to do it to other people, right? Do unto others as you want done unto yourself. So we try our best. Sometimes we have to check ourselves, look in the mirror and go, hey, you don't need to be fixed. You're perfect just the way you are. If you can tell yourself that and just be compassionate, patient with yourself, I don't think you need to go trying to fix anyone else. And if you can't sit with yourself, it's probably likely other people probably can't sit with you as long as you can sit with you. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I sometimes wonder that about myself, Anyway, let me continue. So it says if you are open to future correspondence from the recipient, you can include that as part of the letter. It says do not include any last names, yours or your loved ones, location information, contact information, any references to Nebraska or Nebraska organ recovery. Apparently, maybe that means that this could be anywhere, doesn't have to be in Nebraska. If this information is included, it will be removed. Other considerations. You may include a photo with your letter. Make sure the photo does not include identifiable information which might be included on clothing, license plate, signs, etc. Since the religion of the recipient is unknown, please consider the appropriate use of religious comments. Sending your letter. When ready to send your letter, please follow these steps. Place your card or letter in an unsealed blank envelope. Do not place a stamp or write your return address or your full name on this envelope. Place a separate piece of paper with the donor's full name and your full name in the unsealed envelope. Place the unsealed envelope into another envelope addressed to Nebraska Organ Recovery. Okay, so allow for extra time for review and forwarding of your correspondence. A Nebraska Organ Recovery staff member will receive your letter and review it to ensure confidentiality guidelines have been observed. Next, it is mailed to the recipient's transplant center and forwarded to the recipient from there. And then it says if you have any questions, you can call and write and ask. What to expect from the recipient. It says that most transplant recipients have said that they are overwhelmed with emotion and have difficulty expressing their gratitude in words. The recipients will normally say that writing to their donor family is the most difficult thing they have ever done. Some recipients feel guilty because they are still alive, but the donor is not. While the recipients are grateful for the gift, they are afraid their correspondence might cause the donor family pain by bringing back memories of the donor. Some recipients may take several months or even years before they feel comfortable writing to the donor family, and some recipients never write. So she wrote, I received that on the 22nd, 23rd of August. So that was pretty quick. I think that she was in a good place. Dear recipient. So I'm going to write my letter. Yeah. Dear recipient. So she wrote, and this is Marilyn, which is kind of funny because when I think of the name Marilyn, I think of Marilyn Monroe. And there's little synchronicities that I can appreciate through this whole experience and this journey, because you can't make up some of the stories I've had, you know, throughout the course of this time. So I also had read something about she was also very close in age to my mom. So, and that was, I think, in the other correspondence that I received with the picture frame. So, wow. Okay, so first, I want to thank you for your card. Knowing that my mom lives on in you brings me great joy. Gratitude. Great joy and gratitude. Has anyone out there ever had a family member donate an organ or organs and had correspondence with the recipient or the family? This is kind of interesting, yeah. Because she is / was a very special woman. Who would have done anything for anyone. To help anyone. Shirley, I want to put her name, was the middle child of 6. And she's a spitfire. My mom could definitely be said strong in her personality, and very strong in her, there's a word that's coming to me, very strong in her conviction of personality, her conviction of self, right? Conviction of being. She would have been 64 this November. child. But the oldest of 3 girls, 3 sisters, who she raised and grew up together. My mom is definitely a special woman. We got to hear some really great stories and funny stories from my aunt when we were in Nebraska. She said that, see, my mom, apparently my grandmother, with 6 children, they would go to the beach, or they would go, yeah, pretty much the beach. And they would all get in the station wagon. And my mother was the one who would sneak out of the car and be standing in the parking lot like, you forgot me, with a big smile on her face. Which doesn't surprise me. When I heard these stories, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense for all 3 of us, because at different various times in our lives, I know each one of us has had a moment of, notice me. And I think that's natural. You know, like, if you're one of a big family, no matter where you fall, there's going to be a point where you're like, hey, I don't feel like I'm getting the attention I need, right? Growing up, we develop coping mechanisms for our needs. When our needs aren't met, we do certain things. Those are our survival skills and tactics to fulfill and get those needs met. So up until the age of 6 or 7, we are trying to find ways to have our needs met, whether it's learning to communicate, whether it's, behaviors. Our parents, if they're really tuned into us, are going to notice how we are trying to communicate, and they're going to work with us, or they're going to get frustrated, and it's going to cause us to find our own way to survive. This is one of the many things that I learned throughout many of my teachings, and especially beyond addiction, because that's how addictions are developed. Our habits can become our addictions, our belief systems become our addictions. It's our convictions, right? Like, this is this way, because that's the story we create. Every story that we create in our head is truly an addiction that we hold on to. We do or we don't. And you can always rewrite that, I'm learning. So my mother, I don't know all the stories, and she didn't get a chance to share everything with us, but she did make it clear that there were various times in her life that she ran away. She did not want to be at home. And, in those days, my grandfather was apparently a very stern man. People feared him. My aunt was saying that they feared him to the point where if he heard noise up in the attic, he'd be like, what was that? I know my grandfather had a trucking company, and if you crossed my grandfather, he did not have patience, and he had a temper. And my mom said he used to carry a 2x4, and this is back in Boston, up in Massachusetts, where back in those days, we had policemen and lawyers and judges in our family too. So, and I know you hear these stories, right? You see things like this on TV. Literally, if somebody would tick him off, I say piss him off, tick him off, he would take the 2x4 out, my mom would say, and he would whack the side of a car of somebody who might have, wronged him in his mind. And so, what is it in life that creates this anger, this need to be violent with people? Again, these are coping mechanisms. These are our stories. This is how people express themselves. It doesn't mean it's healthy, but to recognize the healthy and the unhealthy, and discerning what is working and what is not. You can continue on the unhealthy and recognize at some point in your life that, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, if you continue to do the same thing over and over again and you get the same result, it could keep you in a pattern that's enabling a bad behavior. People might be disempowering you by enabling you at the same time. So there's different various ways we can hold on to stories, right? Like if we're playing the victim and we continually tell the same story, and maybe it gets us attention because people will listen and they don't even realize you've told the story a million times to people. Or maybe your behavior is unhealthy and people just tolerate it because they're putting up with you. You know, there's just different ways, but only you yourself are going to know what your story is, and if it's enabling, disabling, if it's the other day I was trying to remember that word. So we have promoting habits and demoting habits. And when we recognize what's promoting us, growing us up, and letting us evolve, then that's where we need to move in that direction. If we stay in this other demoting movement, there is no movement. It's just keeping us stuck. So, and you know, I watched my mom over the years, and there was a lot of victimhood story going on there, and I didn't know all of it. And as a young child, I know for myself growing up, I would see things and I'd feel like compassion, and knowing that it was a story, and knowing that she didn't get the proper way to heal. She wasn't, and a lot of people don't, right? We have to figure it out as we get older, where we have trauma in our lives and we don't get the proper treatment. We don't have the proper counseling. Nobody sits down with us and works with us to heal it. I've had to work on my own stuff, and that's where, you know, the yoga has helped. And it sounds silly. Somebody would think yoga helps. Well, you know, they're doing plenty of studies with meditation and how it's reducing stress, and how, you know, the clarity. The whole purpose of my mindfulness in the moment workshop is to remind you that if you're forgetful, if you're misplacing things, if you're becoming accident prone, if you are scattered and disorganized and emotional and reactional, just sitting down and being mindful in the moment, you can clarify and hone in. You can confront whatever is causing that instead of avoiding it. And really being present with yourself is going to allow you to make more peace with yourself and to confront whatever comes up. And it takes time. It took me a while, because I realized I was a busybody. I had to be physically active, and busybody and physically active means, well, I don't have to sit with myself. If I keep my mind over here, I don't have to sit with myself. And I realized, looking back on all that I didn't like to sit still, because I wasn't really wanting to be alone with myself. It wasn't that I was bored. It was that I just didn't want to be quiet and still by myself. I preferred the company of others. Some would say you're really extroverted in that sense, right? Now I feel a little bit more like I don't mind being alone with myself. I can sit with my crap. Well, let me tell you, that's not always fun, but at least I am aware of what comes up, and I sit there and I go through it, and in my mind I'm like, okay, what is that trying to tell me about myself? What am I supposed to glean from this? What is the lesson? Why am I getting whatever, why is my fixation on that? When I'm able to sit with myself, I feel calmer later on, because I realize it's never going to be outside of myself. It's always going to be what's inside of myself. So mindfulness in the moment, it is that you'll find that you are the gift when you are in the present, right? So coping mechanisms, my mother didn't have a whole lot of, she didn't heal. Now I'm certain she's healed, but that's where I believe each generation is to help do better. And if we can recognize the unhealed wounds of our past and our ancestors and our lineage, we can improve upon them. We can heal them, because we can rewrite the stories that didn't serve in the past. So, my mom was the middle child of 6 and very strong in a conviction of self and being. She would have been 64 this November. I am her third child, but the oldest of 3 sisters who she raised and grew up together. She loved to travel. Her definition of freedom was being able to jump in the car and take a trip. What's your definition of freedom? Tell me in the comments. That's what I want to know. Hers was having access to a car. To come and go as she pleased. She loved the library. And was a avid reader. And researcher for the truth. Isn't that interesting? So many of us spend time seeking truth outside of ourselves. We never actually recognize it's within us. And what is your truth? Do you know what your truth is? I don't know if you can if you can actually put words to truth. Sometimes you cannot put words to truth. If I were to put words to truth, I would say, there are no words. It's in just being and appreciating. It's hearts beating, it's butterfly wings flapping. It's the glimmer in the eye of a person. It's a smile. It's a softness. See, when you put words to things too, one thing I've learned is you actually take the experience and the meaning out of it. I'll never forget when I went to my first teacher training in Nicaragua, and one of our teachers, Vedantan, he said, we were sitting there watching the sunrise. And during that sunrise, he said, the moment you put words to what you're experiencing, you have taken yourself out of the experience. So of course you're not present because now you're seeking, right, outside of yourself for the meaning of what's happening in the moment. You have to just be in the moment. You cannot put words on it. Even writing about it, you've taken yourself out of the moment. Taking pictures, all of that. Now you're no longer in the moment. You're in the presence of capturing the future or the past. That's not presence, actually. You're outside of it. That was humbling to learn back then. And I appreciated him saying that because I realized I started to say, what a beautiful sunrise. He said, but the moment you start to say that, you've already left that moment, right? So you have to just be. And that is humbling because how many of us can sit, be still, look, wait, listen, you know, just engage your senses. She was loved by many. She was also despised by many too. I would say she was misunderstood. I miss her greatly. And this was a tough year. For me, as I had hoped to see her again this year. It had already been over 8 years since I had seen her. Seen her, felt her, hugged her, held her, hugged or was held by her. She also passed within less than a month of my own birthday. Less than a month before my birthday. She was always the first to call me. And sing to me. This is not my normal handwriting. The night before. This was a hard, that was hard. Wow, yeah. It's gonna be easier to fold, take this out and then. I love perforated paper. Makes it easier. I truly am happy. Blessed that you were blessed, touched by my mom. Whenever you see a butterfly or dragonfly, that's my mom. My first day home, there was a large dragonfly inside the house with no explanation. Or reason for it other than a sign. Do you believe in signs? Are there signs that show up in your life that are obvious and clear, that are regular, whether they're numbers, birds, animals, critters, creatures, whatever it is? Rainbows for me all the time. I'd love to hear. I'd love to know. Also every day, the black swallowtail. Shows up to me, as well as my sister. It's the little things in life that keep her memory alive. Much love, Lana. So that's written. I have to find another envelope apparently. That's funny. Okay. Well, at least I have an envelope that I can address to the organ donation recovery in Nebraska, Oregon. So let's see. I think I probably have in the other room a smaller envelope. I have a whole section organized for my envelopes and stamps, and there I'm sure we have one that's small enough for that. So we put the address on this. Wow. I still need to remember to put a card in there that has my mom's name on it. So we send it to Nebraska, Oregon Recovery Aftercare. Nebraska, Oregon Recovery Aftercare. And they did say for the eyes they would send us there would be different correspondence. I can't believe we drove up there. Sometimes I'm still in total awe of the way this summer has been. Has your summer flown by? It's almost over. See, this is a good thing about going through the mail pile. I have another letter I'm going to have to write later as well. I'm kind of behind on You know, my mom, that's one thing she taught us too, is the importance of correspondence. As you know, people don't write handwritten letters very often. So if you ever receive something that's handwritten, that in itself, that's someone who's showing they care. That's like that special extra touch. And while I've been doing this declutter challenge myself, I have been finding lots of my mom's letters and her handwriting. My mom's handwriting was always beautiful. So that's been really sweet. July September, July. Apparently my statements are out of order. That's not a surprise. That'll make it easier to sort some things. And June. Okay, so June and July at least are together. Alright. Those. Then we got the list going on. Then I've got my VA stuff over here. And I have got appointments I have not made that I've had to put off. VA paperwork that's for my tax records. VA paperwork that basically says, in order to appeal, once again, my, do not delay filing your appeal if you request a hearing. So, for anybody out there who may be a veteran, this is the problem with our system. I have to appeal within 60 days. July 9th. Go figure, the day after my mom. July to August, August to September. I'm going to have to contact them because I'm beyond 60 days and did not realize it, and I will take care of that. That I have to do first thing Monday morning, so that'll be taken care of. The other thing is I have appointments that need to be followed up on. Oh shoot, that was an appointment. No, that was from June, so that one's okay. That's an old appointment. This is trash. June 21st and 14th. I already made it to those appointments. This is gonna go for my mom. This. So I have to make appointments here. So I have a lab appointment coming up, and I have to double check. I think it's in the next week or two. June. I'll call them and find out. It's on Monday. I used to be really good at this kind of stuff and keeping up. I have an American Legion paperwork that I need to contact. This is summary of my benefits from last year. And then this, the bank's correspondence from December. Interesting. I don't know why we have this. So that's trash. And since I don't have a shredder, I always do this regarding my information on it. Alright, that's going in the trash. Mike Twitty. So this is for taxes for the house. All the fun stuff about going through sorting your mail pile. Alright, so this is what happens when you don't make priorities and don't go through your mail piles. You can end up messing up on your dates. But, given my circumstances, I will be giving them a call first thing Monday morning. And that's going to be put in my calendar on my phone. Do y'all do that? I always do reminders in my phone because that's the only way I'm going to remember is when I get that message that says, you have an appointment coming up. So, coming up this week, let's see if we got appointments. I swore there was one coming up. I thought I had something. I swear I had a blood appointment with the VA. I'm gonna have to call the VA. So today is the 15th. Let's see, Monday. So Monday I need to make contact the VA, and I've had to do this before. About claims appeal. 60-day window. Yeah, because I filed a notice of disagreement and they turned around and see, my understanding is, and things have changed over the years, my understanding from a woman who works the VA up in Massachusetts that was a friend of my mom's, she wasn't as helpful as I had hoped she would be. She said, well, once they open up your case and you file a letter of disagreement, they're supposed to go through your entire case, meaning they're supposed to review it, not just look at what it is you're requesting. And from what I found in this letter, they didn't do that. So it's quite aggravating. It is not the first time. I've been working on this for years. There are things that, percentage-wise, if you were to go into the system the way that they award percentage on certain, let's say, disability. And the word disability, no, not so much. I don't want to use that. But some of the different conditions that I've dealt with over the years, they gave me the lowest percentage, and from my understanding, they do that despite the obvious. Let's just say, for example, varicose veins. Now, that doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but when you wear combat boots and your circulation's all messed up because of your working conditions, and you're sitting in, I got Raynaud's, for example, which is because of the cold environments I worked with computer systems in cold rooms. I literally would have layers upon layers of clothing on because it would be so freezing in there. And so let's say we'll use the varicose veins. So the percentage they gave me was based on just a couple veins in my legs. I have varicose veins all the way up my legs, up around my buttocks, believe it or not. Behind my legs, you can't miss them. And according to the percentage they gave me, they give you the lowest. And I've told the doctor, I'm like, it's not like it's not obvious. You can see it all the way up my leg. So I don't understand why that doesn't get adjusted automatically. These are the things that they make you have to ask for. It's like they make you prove your worthiness. They don't help, is what I'm trying to say. And most people, because that's the issue with the military, people don't feel worthy of what they're entitled to, especially after giving their time and their bodies, they're, in conditions that a lot of times were not by choice. And back in those days, it was like you did as you were told, didn't question what you were being told to do. And man, I tell you what, I could have burned my eyes out in so many different crazy things, stories I could tell you. Look into, you're not supposed to look into, anyway, forget it. It's interesting, it really is, because we can so easily feel like we're not worth something. And the way the system and this government, you're supposed to fight for what you're entitled to, or you're not supposed to feel like you should have to ask for it. And then if you're denied, you typically won't go back and ask again, because nobody likes to be rejected, so we kind of cower off into the corner. And so it's your right to ask. And that's one thing I learned with my mom, my grandfather, is don't let someone tell you you're not worth it, that you're not valuable, that just because they say no to you doesn't mean that's the end all. I mean, sometimes you got to go back several times, which is what happened with my grandfather. It happened with my stepdad. My stepdad, he had to have knees replaced. My grandfather had to have his knees replaced. Denial does not mean that's the end. Sometimes you have to continue. You have to fight the good fight. And the good fight is standing up for yourself and not letting someone or some system make you feel like you're less than just because they said no. It's not even the system. It's not that anybody's judging you. It's just part of their checklist. Deny until they die was an old adage back from the previous generations. Deny it till you die. As my mom used to say, there were some things my grandfather used to say, and they used to really trigger my mom. And so it was like saying lie, right? And it was acceptable. And that's just, it doesn't make it right. It's just that people did it, and especially old boys club, right? Oh, you're crazy. You don't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. That's denying the person their truth, and it's unhealthy. So anyway, I put this in my calendar. I have to make a phone call to the VA. So that, and I'll just put 8 a.m. No travel time. Do y'all do this? You put little reminders? Let's say at time 8 a.m. Monday 10 and 8 a.m. All right, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just a little sleepy now. I think I'm gonna go to bed. This was a little draining, but at least I wrote the letter, and so I'm gonna send it off to the recipient. Let me know in the comments how you're faring. Tomorrow is day 6, and on day 6, we're supposed to clean off the kitchen table. We'll see about that. So, I love you all. Have an amazing Saturday. Keep it raw, stay rad. What?